أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, we're just going to finish off, inshallah, Ibadur Rahman. We spoke about them last week, and subhanallah, Sheikh Jalal done the lesson on Saturday, and that was meant to be the part 2, so that we don't have to do another lesson for the Journey to the Hereafter series, and we can get straight into Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, I forgot to tell the brothers to record it, so we'll just do a quick one, inshallah Azza wa Jal now, finishing off the traits of the slaves of Ar-Rahman, and then inshallah Azza wa Jal, we will stop the series in Ramadan, and then continue after. We're up to the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورَ وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. And those who do not witness falsehood, and if they pass by some evil play or evil talk, they pass by it with dignity. This is very important, because when you talk about the slaves of Ar-Rahman, you are talking about traits that are all-encompassing of an upright believer. We spoke about those who truly fear Allah, those who are humble, those who are obedient to the Quran and the Sunnah. We spoke about some of the traits. What many people unfortunately misunderstand when it comes to being religious is that it is not an aspect of religiosity that you are and that makes you religious. No, you have to be holistic in your approach to being religious. You can't just, for example, pray but then steal. You can't be a person who doesn't steal but you don't pray. You have to be a person who's doing this and is ensuring to stay away from all the other bad things and doing all the other good things. This is one of the traits that many people have, and this is a problem. And we're speaking about this, and subhanAllah, even in Wollongong, I found that this is one of the things that causes actually a lot of fitna between people. This is my personal experience here. So this is a very important reminder that those who do not witness or do not bear witness to falsehood, if something is wrong, then it needs to be pointed out straight away. If someone is speaking wrong in front of you, you need to stop them in their tracks. Otherwise, what happens? Why do I say in Wollongong? Because it's a very small community. So what ends up happening, if something is said over here, it easily spreads to everyone else. Now that could be 100% falsehood, what the person says. But what do other people, what's their responsibility? The other people are meant to do? They're meant to stop that person. Where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Have you clarified? Have you spoken to that person? Have you advised that person? Are you sure you didn't misunderstand what the person was saying or what the person was upon? So they're meant to clarify the wrong that they heard. Or, bare minimum, they meant to, if they heard something, go and clarify with the person. But what ends up happening when you bear witness to falsehood, that ends up spreading everywhere. And certain people are wrong, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in friendship, whether it's in business, whether it's to do with the masjid, no matter what it is. Falsehood and wrong ends up spreading because the person allowed himself to pay attention to what was said in the first place. Then, worse than that, these people should not witness falsehood. Worse than that is when the person takes that falsehood and spreads it to others. And this is evil. And this is worse than what they done initially by simply listening. When you listen and you don't pull the person up, that's wrong in itself. But then for you to be a person who takes that wrong and to spread it to others, this is even worse than you simply listening. So a person, they shouldn't bear witness to any falsehood, let alone them partaking in that falsehood. And falsehood is of many types. Falsehood is of many types. It all goes back to that which is wrong. You not doing that which is wrong. And testifying to that which is wrong. Plagiarizing that which you know is wrong. People, for example, do this in business. They only work 5 hours. They write down, for example, that they work 10 hours. This is wrong. We recently had when the floods were happening and the rain was happening and the government was giving out grants for people to do repairs in their house. For example, people putting in forms that had damage and they had no damage. But they knew that the government's going to give them money and not ask questions yet. So they thought, I'm going to take advantage of the situation. This is all zur. You are testifying with that which you know is wrong. So, however, the witnessing of the wrong and the falsehood is, this is not the trait of the believers. This is actually a major sin. If you see it's wrong, you're meant to do your best to stop it. The bare minimum is that you do not partake in it. Worse than that is seeing wrong and then sharing it to others. And as we mentioned, it comes in many different forms for a person to witness wrong and to not stop it. وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. And if they pass by vain speech, if they pass by al-laghu, evil actions, that which not only has no benefit, it's actually wrong. People mocking other people, people belittling other people, people backbiting other people, people spreading lies about other people. How do they pass by these people? They pass by honorably, meaning they do not partake in the wrong that they are doing. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ رَأَ مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. If one of you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. If he can't change it with his hand, then with his tongue. Let him speak against it. If he can't change it with his tongue, then let him change it with his heart, and that is the weakest of Iman. How does a person change an evil with his heart? He doesn't partake in it. He doesn't partake in it, and he accepts it that it's wrong. Sometimes there may be, for example, a person in the community, and you don't like that person. So people are talking about him. So you say, you know what, I'm not going to partake in it, but you never done anything to stop it. We should never, Allah says in other verses in the Quran, do not allow your hatred of others lead you to injustice. Your emotions, how you feel towards someone is one thing. But you allowing wrong or doing wrong towards that person because you dislike him is wrong. And that's depression, and that leads you to have a major sin. There is nothing that forces you in the Sharia to love someone. There are certain people, you just, you're not the best of friends. You don't get along, yani like best of friends, and you don't want to hang out with that person for life, etc. But they have rights upon you. As a Muslim, they have rights upon you. One of those rights is if that they are oppressed, that you give them victory. So if people are talking about this person, this individual, this couple, this nationality, whatever it may be, they're talking about them unjustly, they're talking about them incorrectly, that you actually say something to stop it. You say what you're doing is wrong, what you are saying is wrong. As we mentioned about falsehood, go and clarify with those people. Go and make sure you didn't misunderstand what those people were saying, as opposed to spreading that bad about others. Or make sure, if you don't even have that ability, the bare minimum that you hate it in your heart. Let's say you can't say anything, you can't do anything. The bare minimum, you make sure that you hate it in your heart, because this is wrong. It's oppression. Don't be a person that's happy that that wrong is happening, because then it can become sinful on you. That, wallah, I'm happy that a Muslim in the community is being oppressed. I'm happy that they're talking about this person. You can't say, wallah, I didn't say it, but you were happy that it happened. So if you see that wrong, you make the change with your hand. If you can't, then with your tongue. If you can't, then you hate it in your heart, meaning you don't partake in it and you understand that it is incorrect. How are you meant to be in the situations? As you mentioned, you either say something, you do something about it, or you leave that gathering. People are talking wrong, whether they're mocking the religion, they're backbiting, they're slandering, they're swearing. It's a gathering of evil, they're actions of evil. You're meant to either enjoy the good and forbid the evil, or you're meant to leave that gathering. If you don't leave that gathering, then you become a part of what they are doing and you can't complain. Then you can't complain. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِّرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ لَمْ يَخِرُّوا عَلَيْهِ سُمًّا وَعُمْيَانًا. And those who, when they are reminded with our verses, they do not fall as if they are deaf. They do not fall on those people as if they are deaf or blind. Meaning when they are told this is right and this is wrong, they pay attention. We cannot be as believers those who are reminded, okay, this is wrong. This is what the sunnah is. This is how you are meant to be. And we don't care. This is not what I think is right. This is not what my culture says. This is not what my dad does. This is not what I want to do. Who's going to stop me from doing it, etc. La, as Muslims, what the Quran and Sunnah say, we as believers respond with, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We hear and we obey. Otherwise we end up like others, سَمِعْنَا وَعَصَيْنَا. The people before us, they used to say, we hear and we disobey on purpose. They know right and wrong, but they don't care about right and wrong. As believers, we cannot be like that. We cannot be people that are like blind and deaf when they hear the reminder. And how many people, their lives would be so much better if they implemented one benefit they heard a week. For example, Khutbah Jummah. We come every single Friday. Let's say you have 2 Fridays off. For whatever reason, let's just give you 50 Fridays a month to make a nice number. 50 Fridays a year to make a nice number. Imagine you were to improve your life, or the Muslims were to improve their life with 50 benefits a year. Just 50 benefits a year. How much different would they be now after 10, 15, 20 years of attending Salat al-Jumu'ah? Let alone 30, 40, 50 years of attending Salat al-Jumu'ah. How much different and better would we be as individuals? But what ends up happening? We come, we sit for half an hour as if we are blind and we are deaf, and we don't pay attention. We come in, it's like we heard nothing. We walk out, it's like we heard nothing. This is a big problem. This is not the traits of Ibad al-Rahman, the slaves of al-Rahman. Alhamdulillah, the beautiful month of Ramadan is upon us. And this is the most blessed month a person can live and see. And the doors of Jannah are open, the doors of the Hellfire are closed, the shayateen are locked up. We are going to be listening to so much recitation of the Quran. And many of us, alhamdulillah, we ourselves will be reading so much of the Quran. And in the majority of nights in the week, we're going to hear reminders in between the Taraweeh. And many of us, we've got like the Al-Bayan radio at home on, and we're listening to the reminders there. And in our cars, when I listen to music, we want to take advantage, we listen to a lesson, whatever it may be. We're going to hear so much information of what to do and what not to do. But how many are going to leave Ramadan actually fulfilling what they heard? Again, this is a sad reality that many individuals have. That they hear the verses of Allah Azza wa Jal, but they go about them as if they are blind and deaf. And as if they heard nothing or seen anything. And this is not the way of the believers. Rather, we hear and we implement. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And those who say, our Lord, bestow upon us from our wives and our offspring that which be a comfort for our eyes, and make us leaders for the muttaqin, make us leaders for those who are truly God-fearing. The believer, not only is he trying to be upright himself, but rather he's doing his best to call people to also being upright. And that begins with your family. So you as a Muslim, you want to be upright. But your goodness does not stop there. Your goodness as a Muslim is meant to spread to everyone else also, to the best of your ability. After you are looking after yourself, who do you start with? Your family. قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِكُمْ نَارًا. Save your souls and your families from the hellfire. And then those closest around you after that. وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Call your close people from your tribe, from your area, from your relatives, etc. This is how the da'wah is meant to work. And so you become like an epicenter of goodness. You are good, and that goodness emanates from you. And it spreads to those that are around you. From the ways of the believers is that ask Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah, make our families, our wives and our children the coolness of our eyes. What does it mean, the coolness of our eyes? Not that wallah they become rich, famous, they become extremely educated. This could be a part of that goodness. But it's talking about their religion. Make them a coolness of our eyes based on their religion. Ya Allah, allow them to be people who establish the prayer. Allow them to be people who have good character. Allow them to be people who are knowledgeable. Allow them to be people who pray the night prayers. Allow them to be people that help the poor and needy. This is what you want as a Muslim parent. For your children to be righteous. Whether he's a doctor or he's a carpenter doesn't mean anything to Allah Azza wa Jal. Whether he is a poor person or a rich person doesn't mean anything to Allah Azza wa Jal. Whether he's got one child or 15 children doesn't mean anything to Allah Azza wa Jal. Unless that is used in goodness. Unless that action is done sincerely and is beneficial to yourself and others. That's when it can be a means of goodness. But it itself, me having 15 children doesn't mean anything. A person having a doctorate doesn't mean anything. A person being rich doesn't mean anything in and of itself. If it's sincerely done for the sake of Allah and used for the benefit of Islam, alhamdulillah, this is when it means something. Other than that, it means nothing. So you want your wives and your families to be people after you that are righteous and upright. Not only that, وَجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And make us leaders for those that are righteous. As Muslims, we should have high standards. We should have high standards. Humility is in the general matters. General matters. But there are certain things that there's no humility in. Meaning, like the front row. There are people that pray in the front row, and then they'll see someone and they'll be like, oh no, come take my spot. Like they think they're doing him a service. That's not doing him a service. You're meant to be greedy in this aspect. That front row is hasanat. The Prophet ﷺ told us we would have fought if we knew the virtues that are in the front row. So you should be getting the front row. But there are times where you obviously need to understand there are rulings. Like right behind the Imam, the Prophet ﷺ told us that those with most knowledge should pray behind the Imam. That's a different story. But generally speaking, the front row, this is the time where, no, you say, I need to be greedy now. I need to be greedy. Because I want those hasanat. Now, when it comes to you being a leader for the believers, this is not a time to say, you know what, I want to be a nice Muslim, I just want to pray, and I just want to just focus on myself. No, that's not where you should be as a Muslim. Your mind should be bigger than that. If every single Muslim said, I just want to be a good Muslim and focus on myself, what's going to happen in the Ummah? Is Islam going to spread? Is Islam going to get stronger? Are things going to grow? Impossible. Impossible. Just again, we take this humble masjid as an example. Just this masjid to run properly needs, Allahu Alam, how many volunteers once we write down the names of the volunteers that we could remember, and they got to like easily over 50. Some of them, the majority of them on a weekly basis, from cleaners and teachers and people that run activities and the people that look after the children and the people that cook. Easy over 50, the majority of them weekly, on a weekly basis, just to run this little place. But in order for you to do, alhamdulillah, the things that are done here, from the teaching and the sports and the events, etc., it needs a lot of assistance. Money, believe me, you need a lot of money to run a simple place like this. A lot of money to run a simple place like this. If everyone says, you know what, I'm just going to focus on myself, where are you going to get those 50 volunteers from? Over 50 volunteers, where are you going to get them from? Everyone wants to focus on himself. How is Islam going to spread? Okay, alhamdulillah, you're born into a Muslim family, for example. What about the people that are non-Muslim? Who's going to give them da'wah? Okay, mashallah, they look after. What about the Muslims that are far away? What about the Muslims that didn't have people to teach them right and wrong? And they're now, unfortunately, not very religious. Who's going to call them? Okay, who's going to do the online stuff? There's so many things that da'wah requires. And so, when you are a person that says, I'm willing to put my hand up for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, to perform these activities for His sake, not a matter of pride, not a matter of for my face to be there. The vast majority of volunteers that do things that take tens of hours a week, you have no idea who they are. Some of the people that donate tens of thousands of dollars a year to barakah to the masjid, you have no idea who they are. The people that come weekly and clean the masjid, where alhamdulillah you come and you enjoy praying on the carpet and going to the bathrooms and seeing the place getting clean, you have no idea who they are. But they say, I need to do what I can, I need to do my part so that I can help spread the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal. I can help spread Islam. I make the implementation of the religion comfortable for people. And that's why this is part of the dua of the righteous. That make us, myself and my family, make us leaders for the muttaqeen. Leaders for the righteous. And you as a believer, you remember the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says things along the lines of فَضْلُ الْعَالِمِ عَلَى الْعَابِدِ كَفَضْلِ عَلَى أَدْنَاكُمْ. The virtue of the scholar over the worshipper is like the virtue of me, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, over the lowest of you. What's the difference between the scholar and the worshipper? What's the main difference in terms of benefit between the two?
Knowledge.
Yeah, what about the knowledge?
It's greater with the scholar. Because he studied.
Yeah, but is it just about his knowledge? That's what makes him better? The benefit to others. The person who is a worshipper, for example, he prays Qiyam al-Layl, he prays the night prayers, he reads a lot of Quran, he makes a lot of dhikr, dua, etc. He's a very religious and righteous person. But his benefit too. He himself or the ummah? Himself only. As for the alim, the scholar, who does he benefit? Himself and the people around him, the societies around him, the communities around him. Now he's able to answer questions, etc., etc., etc. He's able to give da'wah. He's able to talk about the religion, that which is right and wrong. What happens if you don't have knowledge? Even if you're a abid, even if you're a worshipper, your intention is good. But what happens if you don't have knowledge? You cause more problems then. You fix. Imagine trying to give someone advice, sincere advice about their car and mechanics. No. Every car I know they need water. And you know what? Just try putting water there. Your car's overheating. Try putting water there. What ends up happening to the engine? Boom, it explodes. Why? Because you're meant to put oil there, not water. You say, wallah, but my intention was sincere. We say, it doesn't matter what your intention is. If the act is wrong, the act is wrong. Similarly with Islam, everyone has sincere intention. Everyone wants to do good. But if they don't have knowledge, what ends up happening? They end up causing more issues than the good that they're trying to do. So this is why knowledge is so important. And this is why it's not allowed to talk about, you're not allowed to talk about the religion without knowledge. You're only allowed to say that which you know. And this is why we go back to scholars, we go back to mashayikh to know our actions right or wrong. We go back to the sharia. If you differ amongst everything between you, take it back to Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. And those in authority amongst you, and who are they? They are the scholars. Okay, so we need to go back and make sure that we understand the religion. We need to make sure we understand the religion. That's how you reach to those higher levels, and you put in that effort and that sacrifice, and so you can become, with those two traits, from the leaders of the believers. From the leaders of the believers. Otherwise, what ends up happening, as we mentioned, everyone sticks to their own corner, and they are religious, but Islam dies with them. The community has no benefit. People they don't hear about Islam. People don't have the opportunity to change because there was no one holding the reins, trying to lead that good change and that positive change in the community. So you start with yourself, your family, and then those around you. أولئك يجزون الغرفة بما صبروا ويلقون فيها تحية وسلاما خالدين فيها حسنة مستقرا ومقاما. Those indeed will be rewarded with the highest places in paradise because of their patience. Therein they will be met with greetings and words of peace and respect. They will abide therein forever. Excellent it is indeed as an abode and a place to dwell. These are people that are promised and guaranteed the paradise. Ibadur Rahman. We spoke about the first half of their traits last week, and we spoke this week about the second half in a much summarized manner. Just to conclude on Ibadur Rahman, we as Muslims, dear brothers, need to ensure that we learn our religion and implement our religion. Okay, learn our religion and implement our religion. You see here, these are all acts. These are all actions. When we spoke about the week before, about قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, and Allah mentions the traits of the believers. There were also traits that we mentioned. We need to learn them and act upon them. When Allah talks about the traits of the muhsinin, the good doers, we need to learn them and implement them, because simple me being good or wanting good or believing I'm good is not enough. My intention of goodness is not enough. We need to, number one, ensure sincerity. Number two, we need to ensure that we're fulfilling the criteria that Allah Azza wa Jalla Himself has placed for the ones that He wants. We need to make sure that we are fulfilling ourselves the criteria that Allah Himself placed for the ones that He loves. Otherwise, we end up extremely ignorant and we're extremely arrogant as human beings, and we end up causing ourselves many issues in understanding right and wrong, and we'll make many mistakes, and then even with good intentions, we could end up being people that Allah hates. We could end up being people that Allah hates. Why? Because He told us what He wanted, and we never bothered learning, or we never bothered implementing that which He told us about Him wanting. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us sincere in following all of His commandments, and allow us to live and benefit from this month of Ramadan and end it with being from the muttaqeen. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Any questions, brothers?